Alrighty, hello and welcome again to Two Peas in a Podcast, episode 2 at this point. So Drake and I, whenever we first were deciding to do a podcast, we had a very small margin of what success would be should we do this. And I remember whenever we were first coming up with the idea, our friend Joanna Schaefer, she basically was like, if you guys did a podcast, I would love to hear it. So like, if we can get just Joanna to listen, then we're in the good.
Yeah, I'd say so. Joanna's a great gal. One of our best friends, like a mom in our group. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was saving a bit of news for you, just because of wanting to save your reaction for the podcast. But we actually have our first sponsorship offer from this podcast.
No kidding.
Now the sponsorship offer is Joanna Schaefer, who said she would send each of us $1 in an envelope to our address if we just gave her a shout out on the podcast.
I'd give her a shout out 5 or 6 times an episode. Maybe.
So here's to Joanna Schaefer for being our first sponsor. All right, what you want to get into? What our topic is for this week? You want to introduce it?
Yeah. So it's 5 things that we enjoyed most about being a kid. I think that's probably how I should phrase it.
Yeah, I think that just in times like this, whenever life's tough, life's boring, we're all cooped up, it's easy to look back and say, these are the things that I miss most from those easier days. So we decided to come up with a list of like the 5 things that we love/miss the most from being kids. So this one's gonna be a little bit more of just kind of like exchanging stories probably than like debate or discussion. So without further ado, Drake, why don't you go and share your list?
All right. So number 5, no real responsibilities. So it means like not working, no bills, and no taxes. So yeah, I mean that's my number 5. I don't know.
I remember like as a kid too, you always think that whatever point of your life that you're in is like the hardest that it is or that will be. And being like, oh man, having to clean the toilet on Sunday, that's got to be as bad as it can possibly be. But, I would take cleaning my toilet for 5 minutes on a Sunday if it meant I didn't have to pay bills. That's right.
I'd clean my toilet every day.
Yeah, it's...
On a Sunday. Even twice on Sundays, actually, if I didn't have to go to work and I had no responsibilities.
Yeah. And that's not to say that, you don't have your challenges as a kid. Like, school's tough. You might have your part-time job at wherever, but... Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah. I mean, that's my number 5. I don't know what else to say about that one.
That's all right.
Yeah. But my number 4 is Sundays after church. And for me, growing up a Christian, and I went to Catholic school, I went to church 2 times a week when I was in elementary and middle school. Once on Wednesdays for school, and then once on Sundays, because that's what my mom wanted me to do, and I'd complain about it because I wanted to spend my weekend doing whatever I wanted to do, but she'd be like, when I was your age, I had to go to church every day, and I'm like, my school's cooler than yours was, so, but Sundays after church always hit different for me. Like, they were always like, the food that was cooked was better, like going over to my grandparents, they'd have good food. Fried chicken, which is one of my favorite things. Corn on the cob, stuff like that, depending on the time of year. But then when you're sitting relaxing on the couch watching football or something, it just feels different than a Sunday does now. You know what I mean? Huh. So I guess you don't know what I mean. But
yeah. For those that don't know, Drake and I definitely, he's a bit more religious than I am. I'm not very religious at all, but what do you think it was about the fact that it was like after church on a Sunday? Do you think it was like that the whole family just happened to be together?
Yeah, at that point, especially when I was little, we would go to church in Bowling Green on the weekends. And it was me and my aunts, my grandparents, and little old me. So, and a bucket of Cool Whip if I didn't like what they were cooking.
You would just eat Cool Whip?
I would just eat Cool Whip. Especially when we went over to my great-grandma's, because she liked to cook with onions, and for those that don't know me, I absolutely despise onions. My fiance, if she listens to this, she'd say, get on with it, Drake. Hate onions, hate meatloaf, that's pretty much it. But if they were cooking anything with that, she'd be like, oh, Drake, it's okay, I'll just get you some Cool Whip. And my mom just absolutely thinks it's hilarious that my grandma just favors me this much. My great-grandma just favors me this much, and the other ones are just chopped liver. All her other grandkids are just chopped liver. And here I am, the kid that gets Cool Whip when everybody's eating meatloaf.
So, what do you think's different about going to like church now and coming home on Sunday afternoons?
Church now, I still get that feeling because we used to go like right after church was lunch for me, and when I was in high school, we would go to the mall when we were here in town and go get food and go shopping and stuff like that. Now, I just feel older, so I guess it probably factors in with no real responsibilities thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I get home on Sunday, I don't have the pressure of work coming the next day or Monday facing me in the face. So
I think there's just something about, regardless of what you're doing, gathering in a group,
yeah,
it gives you like a sense of fulfillment and a sense of purpose. There was a period of time where I was dating a girl who was far more religious than I was, and I would go to church with her family on Sundays every so often. And I could definitely understand that feeling of like the anticipation of it starting, like everyone like kind of excited in the lobby, and then also just the feeling at the end of like, oh, this is good. Like let's keep this feeling going. Let's go out to lunch or something.
Yeah. Another thing about church is, especially the church I go to now, it just their sermons seem to hit close to like what's going on. Mm-hmm. I just find that crazy. So, and Michaela, my fiance, would say the same thing. She feels that way. Like she used to go to church somewhere else, and she really wasn't getting anything out of it. But now she goes to this church, and she's like, they speak right to me, and I don't even know how they're doing that. So
again, speaking from the perspective of someone who's not very religious, I feel like finding the right church is almost like finding the right
friends.
The right friends, like the right therapist in a way.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely gone to a couple of different therapists where I'm like, this doesn't really click with me. Like I don't feel like they really get my values or what's important to me or what I need to touch my heart. And it's the same thing with a church where sometimes you can kind of experiment with them until you find the right match.
Yeah, definitely. We play football sometimes. When I was younger, we'd play outdoors, stuff like that. So till it was time to go get ready for the evening.
And so you may have already said this, so I apologize in advance, but was it one of those things when as a kid, when you did it, you were like, this just feels like a chore, but you appreciate it now?
Yeah, I definitely do appreciate it now. I appreciate my mom and my dad. Really, my dad now really hammering home that I need to have some religion in my life because I feel like now if I didn't have it, I feel like I'd have like something missing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful that my mom has given me that. So, and yeah, my family's just given me something to fall back on or just somebody to talk to.
Sure.
In God. So, yeah, that's my number 4. My number 3 is Saturday morning cartoons. Mm-hmm. So, I think Saturday morning cartoons were almost better than any of the cartoons that were on like Cartoon Network.
Okay, what were some of your favorites?
So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was on Foxbox.
Yeah.
And 4Kids TV. There was this one show, they had these giant animals, and they were like, it was called like Magic Quest or something like that. Then there was this show called Chaotic. I don't know if you remember that one, with the trading cards. Yeah. Pokemon was on it on Saturday mornings for me, and so was Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's because we just had basic cable. Mm-hmm. So, there was just like the one time of the week where the basic cable had all the good stuff.
Yeah.
All the stuff I liked. So, and I just got free reign until they ended around like, normal times. But I feel like probably that the allure of Saturday morning cartoons was the fact that it was on once a week and you're like freaking out about it.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen with Leo and the boys this week? And then, that's about it. G.I. Joe.
I remember we in our kitchen we had a really old fashioned like antenna TV that had a dial on it, no remote, and we had regular cable throughout the rest of the house where you could watch Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or whatever, but we would still get like the first 10 channels on that TV in the kitchen, and so Saturday morning whenever ABC would become what was it? They didn't call it ABC Kids. What did they call it?
So the ones I remember very fondly were Foxbox, 4Kids TV on CW, and then
I don't remember, but just like the fact that we're like, we can watch TV in the kitchen now.
Yeah.
It was so exciting to us for some reason. Even though it's just the exact same things. It's just, American Dragon, Jake Long, and, Kim Possible and things like that again. I think Saturday morning cartoons are the first place that I ever saw Shaolin Showdown.
Yes.
If you remember that one. Shaolin Showdown was almost like borderline, like Avatar Last Airbender knockoff. Like, kind of mixed with like maybe Power Rangers or something.
I think it was before Avatar.
It could be, but the concept was it's like there were these 4 kids who were trying to find these like mystical artifacts in order to fight evil, and it was each of them kind of had like a style of martial arts that was like earth, water, wind, and fire. I think
the little bald guy had water.
And can we just talk for a second about how racist it was they made the little Asian kid have yellow skin?
Yeah, it was super racist. And then they made the only American guy just a super Texan.
Yeah.
And but Saturday morning cartoons they're great. They're great. The Ninja Turtles I watched was not the ones from the 80s. It was 2003, which is like regarded as like the closest to the original comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember I'm trying to burn it off of something right now to get all the series, or to get the whole series, because they don't sell it on DVD. So that's something. Oh, Sonic X was on Saturday morning cartoons, and I loved Sonic the Hedgehog as a kid. Also, on top of that, you're sitting there in front of the TV like this with your head up, like you're playing a video game at Walmart. And breakfast was cooking. And you're sitting there and you're smelling the sweet, delicious taste of sausage, and sometimes biscuits and gravy or whatever. And an obscure memory I have is at my grandparents' house. They have a tin roof, and the tin roof, when it rained, it would be so loud in there because it was only like a 1-level house. Mm-hmm. And I just remember my favorite mornings are when it's pouring down rain and I'm watching Saturday morning cartoons. That's the obscure thing I remember.
I think that with the Saturday morning cartoons too, it just feels like a good way to start off your weekend. It's like I don't feel like I'm just waiting for like Saturday night for something good to happen. Yeah. It's just right off the bat you got something exciting.
No kidding.
I also don't know if you remember. I'm trying to remember. There were a couple of kids shows on Saturday mornings that weren't cartoons, but they were like, I think they're maybe on Discovery Kids, but there was one called Endurance, which is basically Survivor for kids, where like they had different challenges every week, and it wasn't based off of like, you don't get voted off based off politics or, getting people voted off. It was just if you like got through the challenge, like through the fastest time, you were good, and if you didn't, then you got knocked off. So it wasn't just bullying.
Yeah, straight up. If you were a threat.
Yeah, but there were a couple of those. There was also, what was it? It was like one where there was this kid version of King Tut, and he was like a mummy, like a little mummy zombie thing.
Do you remember Liberty Kids?
Oh, yeah, Liberty's Kids, yeah.
Yeah, this showed up on my TikTok feed last night, Liberty's Kids, and the theme song was on there. I was like, wait a second, I recognize this.
it's patriotic as can be.
Yeah.
And, like, there's even like a weird rap break in the middle.
I was just like, wow. That's a deep cut right there.
Yeah, I forgot about Liberty's Kids. I remember my dad recording that for us when we were little and just thought it was sweet.
Yeah, it really good way to teach kids about history.
We even had the Liberty's Kids computer game, I'm pretty sure.
That's crazy. I just had backyard baseball, which is one thing I miss.
Yeah, Liberty's Kids, the game, was definitely a precursor to Assassin's Creed 3. There's a lot of machete murder in that one.
Oh, man. It's not like Pajama Sam or anything like that.
No, it's gritty.
Wow. All right. But yeah, Saturday morning cartoons, something I miss very dearly, and they don't even have them anymore.
Do they not? I think
they don't.
I remember them as late as the days whenever Legend of Korra first came out.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the new episodes of Legend of Korra came out Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. And that's part of the reason I didn't persist with it, because by that point I was like 15, and I just wanted to sleep in.
Yeah. Let me look that up really fast. I'm pretty sure they're gone, because I was looking for them one weekend, and I was like, let's see what's new on Saturday morning cartoons. And I get on CW, and nothing's there.
That'd break my heart.
It tore to shreds. But yeah.
This is kind of a separate vein from Saturday morning cartoons, but I just want to go down the cartoon rabbit hole here for a second. Do you remember some of the crappy cartoons you had to watch whenever you were like sick home from school and just garbage that would come on TV?
So my mom, I was rarely home from school and sick. That's the thing. My mom's a nurse, and anytime I tried to play hooky, she'd be like, "Well, your temp's not 100, and go to school." And I'd be like, just like, dang, this is rough. But I just remember going on some of the channels, like I said, because we had basic cable for a long time. It was Springer, Jerry Springer.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, Jerry Springer, Dr. Phil, yeah, no.
I remember there was a whole summer where I had pneumonia, and so what a terrible way for an 11-year-old to have to spend their summer. But I would just sit in a beanbag chair in front of the TV, and the shows that would be on were just so bad. Like, it was Baby Looney Tunes for a solid 2 hours, and I'm just like, I want just some regular Looney Tunes. I love the Looney Tunes. And then it was Crypto the Superdog for like a solid 5 hours. And Crypto the Superdog, if I'm going to watch a DC show, I want to give me some Justice League, some Teen Titans, and Crypto just didn't scratch that itch that I needed.
Yeah.
It was just hot garbage.
Yeah.
My parents even eventually imposed a rule because during my 5th grade year, I was homesick a lot, mostly just because like I hated school at that point.
Yeah.
I could get away with not going because I was staying on top of my grades. And so, I'd be like, I'm so sick, I can't go to school. And my mom would be like, all right, that means you don't get to watch any TV or play any video games.
Yeah.
And so they started imposing that rule. But, of course, that wouldn't stop me from sitting by the window with the TV on. And just like, as soon as I saw her car driving down the driveway, I'd flip back to the channel it was on, I'd turn off the TV, and I'd run to my room. But in the end, it wasn't even worth it because the show was just such crap.
And you're not really paying attention because you're like looking out the window every 5 seconds.
Just with a guilty conscience.
Oh yeah, definitely. I shouldn't be doing this.
That was another risk I ran was if I ever wanted to play a computer game, our computer was slow as crap. And so if I had to shut something like close out my Battle for Middle-earth game, and I heard her opening the door, I'd be like, okay, volume off, and like hope that it closes out in the next 5 minutes. I just got to stall her.
Oh my god. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Sorry to get sidetracked.
No, you're good. That's pretty much all I had for Saturday morning cartoons. Mm-hmm. We're trucking right along through this one.
That's all right.
Number 2 is a favorite pastime of mine. It's swimming.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm like a baby duck. Baby ducks, it's hard to get them out of the water. That's pretty much me. One thing I loved about swimming was all the fun games we used to play. Like you play with others, like your family or whatnot, while you're swimming, like Marco Polo. We play catch with a splash ball, stuff like that, chicken. Especially when you're little, chicken's a lot easier. Mm-hmm. My dad and my uncle would throw me in the air at Mark Twain Lake and like just throw me as high as they could, and I just like poof, right into the water. And then they play catch with me. And Mark Twain Lake has like these buoys that it's like it sections off the beach, Spalding Beach, mm-hmm. and you could like climb on those and like it'd spin you around if it like the weight went too far. Yeah, those are great. When I was little, once again, I'm very fond of water. My grandparents had an AC unit that like drained water like AC units do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my grandpa would put a 5-gallon bucket underneath the AC units draining. It would fill up. And once those would fill up and I was there, I'd hop right in that 5-gallon bucket.
And we talked about this before, but I love how specifically on the side of those 5-gallon buckets, it just shows a child playing in them with a circle and a line through it.
Yeah.
Like, just like, you probably are the one that made them have to have that rule.
Well, the thing is, nothing ever happened.
Clearly, the other kids just don't know what they're doing with those buckets.
Yeah. You can get me outside with my action figures or something like that, or I just sit in there.
How'd you even fit?
I was,
How old were you when this was happening?
I was little. I was like, when I got older, I didn't fit in it anymore. But all you had to do was give me a 5-gallon bucket and my action figures, and I just like, oh no, he's drowning. And then, but we also had this thing called Crazy Daisy, don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Explain it to those who don't know.
So Crazy Daisy, you hook your hose up to this plastic thing, and it's like a daisy on the end, and the daisy on the end has like little holes that shoot water out.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing, one of the stems of the daisy, like the stem of the daisy, was like
It flails around.
it flails around like a hose would if you just sat it up. I
Yeah.
guess. So it would go nuts. It would like whoa, everywhere. It'd spray everything, and I love that thing. I played with that thing for hours, and I remember when I was older, I hooked it up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is fun." Or I'd run through the freaking sprinklers at home. Yeah, my mom would just get mad. A lot of people, I don't know if you've ever been threatened about being hosed off before by playing outside.
Yeah.
I loved being hosed off. Just spray me with water. Yeah.
It used to drive my mom crazy because I was the same way where I loved, splashing around in water whenever I was a kid. And if our neighbor had a sprinkler going, I would just go over and just sit on it. And I would come home with like my diaper around my ankles, just soaking wet. And I'd just shuffle along. But
Oh, that's funny.
here's a question for you. As a kid, did your parents make you take a bunch of swim lessons?
I took swim lessons at Mockers.
Where's that?
It's here in town. I couldn't tell you without a map. That's the only thing.
Mm.
I took swim lessons there during my preschool years. So I was swimming pretty young.
Yeah, we had to take swim lessons for many, many years, mostly because my dad is really uncomfortable with swimming.
Yeah. My grandpa can't swim.
Yeah, and he never wanted that to be a problem for us.
Yeah.
And so we took a lot of swim lessons, and it always stayed getting up at like 9 a.m. or maybe 8 a.m. even on a summer morning, and jumping in that pool of Southwest, and it was just freezing cold. And, especially back then, I was, maybe like 1% body fat. I was just a rail of a human being,
Yeah.
so I had nothing to keep me warm. And so that turned me off from swimming for quite a while. I think that I like swimming more whenever it was at Joanna's Lake or something, whatever it is, just a group of friends hanging out. But the price of a public pool is you're inevitably going to find like that one person from school who you kind of are friends with, but you really don't want to hang out with for an entire summer afternoon. And they're just following you around relentlessly, like, "Hey, what are we doing now?" I'm like, avoiding you mostly, but
Yeah. I'd always find friends at the pool.
well, you're more sociable than I am.
Well, they were just random kids, and like we'd play games, and then you'd never see them again.
Mhm.
Mocker Swim School is, what the Central Maine Society is.
Sure, yeah.
It's on Vandiver Drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, just to go off tangent there.
Yeah,
But
you're
yeah,
good.
it's on Vandiver Drive. Speaking of running, we used to swim at Oakland Pool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd go off the diving board and run around in the kiddie pool all the time and just like
Just
prowl
piddle
in the water. When I was a kid, the Ark
Oh
was
yeah.
awesome with the giant slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could keep me in that pea field pool for hours.
I don't want to think about that.
No, it's just straight up urine. It's probably 90% urine.
Oh, God.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah. I do have another funny story.
Go for it.
So my grandpa has a pretty big garden that he's worked on since my mom and her sisters were kids. And one summer he brought a fertilizer tank, like a tractor-sized fertilizer tank. Filled it with water, and they dropped me in it because I wanted to swim in it. And it was probably filled with pesticides before,
Good Lord.
Only had been like rinsed out maybe minimally. So yeah, that's probably what's wrong with me. Is I swam in a freaking fertilizer tank for hours. Yeah, and then so it was like this deep. And my grandpa just goes, "All right," like a 9-foot big thing. It's funny.
A couple of, I know as well as any of Drake's close friends or family how much he loves to swim. So I have a couple of stories just of times where I was worried that he might lose that just because of extraneous circumstances. So one time was Drake and I, whenever we were probably like early 20s, late teens, somewhere in there, we went on a trip with my family to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And at Puerto Vallarta, lots of great pools, nice beach and everything. But I know that Drake is just horribly afraid of sharks. Like, horrified, but also fascinated. Like, it's a weird blend.
It's like Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
it's like one chewed up his boat and he loved it ever after.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you always are a little bit worried going to the ocean about sharks. And so I didn't want him to not be able to experience the full joy of swimming at the beach at Puerto Vallarta. And so I may have told a white lie where there are these buoys that kind of go around the cove, and they're basically just there to keep boats from getting too close.
Yeah.
And I told Drake that they were shark nets because
It was like shark net barrier.
yeah, because I didn't want him to miss out on the fun. Sure enough, a few days into our trip, there's a sea turtle up on the beach laying its eggs, and we're like, "Oh, it's beautiful!
It's beautiful.
And the sea turtle begins to slide down the beach and swim out to sea as it does. And Drake's like, well, how's he going to get past the shark nets? And there's this part of the buoys where it kind of goes down the middle so the wave runners can go on. I'm like, oh, it'll just go through it there. Like, its instincts will lead it the right path. And you're like, all right. And it was only, I think, when we were on the plane ride flying home that I admitted to you my terrible lies.
I was kind of upset. But at the same time, before that, though, I'd never swam in the Pacific. It was only the Gulf. And the Gulf, for the most part, in like Destin and Gulf Shores, is pretty clear. So like you can see, like, I don't go that far out because if I can't see my feet, at least in an ocean, I'm like, it's probably not, you know.
There's a great story that I heard on a different podcast actually, where there was this woman who was engaged, and so as a sort of gift, her mother-in-law took her on a trip to Florida. They stayed on the beach together, and so they're out swimming in the water. And this woman sees there's a dark shape swimming in the water towards them. And out of pure survival instinct, she just goes back to the beach without screaming or saying anything to her future mother-in-law and just leaves her in there with this dark shape swimming. She goes back to the beach. She hears a scream. And this scream turns out to be a scream of delight because it's actually a manatee that just swam up to them. And she's like, I will never tell her as long as I live that I left her for dead thinking that it was a shark.
That's hilarious.
But back to Drake's love of water and my wanting him to preserve that is that there was also another time whenever we were in our teenage years where I was hanging out with Joanna and some of our other friends, and I get a phone call from my dear friend Drake here, and he's like, hey JP, what are you up to? I'm like, oh, just hanging with Joanna, what's up? And he's like, well, I just watched a documentary about mermaids that was really scary, so you mind if I come over and hang out with you? I'm like, sure, buddy, you can come on over. But, like, are you on land? You're like, well, yeah. I'm like, you probably don't have much to worry about.
Okay, I don't know if this is just me, but, like, if you ever watch a movie about sharks, I always pick my feet up off the ground.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like those elusive carpet sharks. They'll
get you every time.
They'll get you every time.
Can we also talk about how the scariest part in Jaws is not the shark, but whatever the body, like, drops out of the boat in Richard Dreyfuss's face.
That is the scariest
where he's
part.
scooping?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just, like, that huge shriek of a jump scare that's there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. When I first watched that movie, I remember making my little brother and sister when we were in Florida for my last year before I moved out. Jaws was on because it was the 4th of July. I was like, hey guys, you want to watch a movie? And they watched it. And
I can't believe you did that to them.
I think the next day we spent it at the pool. So.
Oh. But yeah, there's definitely some good pool times, and whenever we were teenagers and all hanging out as a group, we would go down to the lake, and there'd be a giant inflatable raft out there that we'd all just chill out on, and occasionally do WWE moves on each other if we were of a mind.
Remember that time we pushed our friend off constantly and never let her get back on?
Yeah, but it's kind of her fault. Like we would get tired of it and just sit there, and then she'd come over and just start like feebly hitting at you, and you'd be like, "Oh, off the raft,
off the raft you go, get off."
We're terrible people.
We are terrible,
and I'm not afraid to admit that.
Well, what can you do?
So, what's different about your joy of swimming now versus when you were a child?
My joy of swimming now, I love swimming. My grandparents now live in Branson on a resort, and they have 2 pools that are part of the amenities. But I like playing volleyball and like whatever it is, water volleyball, I guess you'd call it. Yeah, that's fun. I always lose because that's me in sports. But what was I about to say?
Difference.
Oh, difference.
Yeah.
Now I really just like being in the water. Like sometimes I just sit there and let my mind go blank and just watch like the little ripples or whatever they are, little waves just sit there, and that's it just goes blank. And I feel really comfortable in the water.
Yeah.
So
Another last pool story from me about me and Drake is that, so this, I just finished my first year teaching. So last summer I was wrapping up my student teaching time, and so Drake and I would be at our pool, and there was one time where there was a group of roughly college age kids who were kind of partying. They brought a bunch of beer, and we're smoking, vaping, and whatever, and just partying at the pool. And I was reading my book there, and I lower my book. And I'm like, there's something familiar about some of these people partying. Like, what's going on? And as they swim around closer, I see that they're some of my students who are high school students, juniors, about 16. And I'm just like, hey, guys. I made no efforts to hide the fact that I had seen them. And I remember them just looking at me wide-eyed and just being like, oh, Mr. P, good to see you. And you don't really know what to do in those circumstances. So about all I offered them was,
don't be stupid.
Yeah, a grave look, a don't be stupid, and like, are you guys driving? Because if you are, you shouldn't be.
And the cops came shortly after that.
That was another time. Yeah, so they frequented that pool, and there was one time where the cops came and flashed their lights at them, and the one of my students that was there with these frat bros, he was like, yeah, I'm ready to go home now, guys. I feel kind of tired. And I'm like, bud, you're scared of the cops. That's okay. And I remember you and I were sitting there in the pool that time, and I kind of like waved him over as he was leaving. I'm like, who are these losers you're hanging out with? Like, what 20-year-old frat bros want to hang out with a 16-year-old from high school? And I'm just like, buddy, like, you're better than this.
Make smarter decisions.
Yeah, these aren't your real friends. But anyway, so we've had some time and a half in the pool.
Yeah, we have. We've had some good times. A lot of pool kwando, a lot of pool tai chi, a lot of water bending. That's one of my things my cousin and I used to do. We would just pretend we were water benders.
That's one does.
Yeah, cool stuff. Before I get to my number one, I'm going to give an honorable mention.
Okay, let's hear it.
Saturday morning soccer games.
Oh.
Yeah.
So were you in a league or something?
I was in... now it's Sporting Columbia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I was in the equivalent of that league, and I played till I was a freshman in high school because West didn't have a soccer team.
Nice.
So, yeah, I played for a while, wore the number 7. One thing about Saturday morning soccer games is the snacks afterwards.
Oh, yeah, that was what I lived for with Little League Baseball. It's like, I better get a Capri Sun and Lunchable after this.
What's his face's mom bringing this week? It's her weekend,
So, me, God, if she brings a baggie of carrots and no ranch, I'm gonna have a conniption.
One thing about the soccer games, though, they would hardly ever get rained out. So you're playing in the rain. Like, you would never... Even that's with real soccer.
Well, that's kind of fun.
It is fun. It's very fun. It was just a good time. And I remember if I scored a goal, I'd be like, Mom, did you see it? Did you see me score? And she'd be like, yes, I saw you score. But my main thing in soccer was whenever somebody would take the ball, I'd kind of just be like, oh, darn, they took the ball.
Yeah.
But I was really into slide tackling, not being very, very good at it. It was just like,
I can't believe they would allow you to slide tackle in little league soccer.
Yeah, they let you do anything.
Fair enough.
One of our goalies got his tooth knocked out.
Jeez.
We were like, we finished the game without a goalie, I think. Pretty funny. But yeah, that's
Scott Sterling.
Yeah, that was my honorable mention. And number 1 is the amount of time with your family that you get to spend. Whether it be holidays, I don't know if you care about me saying anything about the holidays, but do you want me to wait?
We can hold off on the particular one there, but any others you want to mention?
Easter. Mm-hmm. Easter's big with our family. We always go over to my aunt, my mom, one of those houses. We do, or my grandma's, and we do an Easter egg hunt every year. I remember waking up on Easter morning and that giant fictitious rabbit would leave jelly beans everywhere, and I'd be like, whoa, what, you let a giant rabbit in your house, Grandma? And she'd be like, yeah. Just jelly beans everywhere in the kitchen, on on the bookshelves, everything. I'd be like, I didn't even like jelly beans, but I was like, I got all these jelly beans and never eaten one. But
You don't want to disrespect the Easter Bunny.
you don't want to disrespect the Easter Bunny because he's a fearful being.
You've seen those terrifying pictures of him in like the CVC pharmacies or whatever.
No, he's a godless heathen. That's what he is. I know Easter's all about Jesus, but the Easter Bunny's
He's scary.
he's scary as hell. I always like to picture the Easter Bunny as like an actual bunny that just has like a satchel of delicious goods.
Yeah, I like to imagine him that way, not as the creepy like mascot ones that show up.
Now some people do the flower footprints.
Oh,
Yeah, but holiday stuff, 4th of July would be like not just like your family, but like you see more of your extended family. Like now when you're older, you have stuff going on. And you're like, I might be able to make it, I might not. So some years you miss. But when you were a kid, you made it every year.
yeah.
Almost. So 4th of July, we'd go out to this lake in Moberly. I'd ride the jet ski. Or whatever the
Wave runner.
wave runner. And then we'd do like the raft that gets pulled behind a...
Oh yeah,
Yeah, definitely get
The
shot
tubing.
into the air. My uncle would do his best to just fling me into the sky, you know? Yeah, the amount of... You look back on it and you're like, crap, I really wish I was a kid. I get to see my mom and my dad every day. You know?
You were good more than most people I know about seeing your family on a regular basis. I will say that.
Yeah, my dad comes to visit quite often. And I've gotten a lot better at seeing my mom and that family. But when you move out of the house, you're like, oh, man, yeah. I'm on my own. I can do whatever I want. So you're kind of like, at least that was it for me.
Yeah.
So I was so enamored by being on my own. No.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's there's pros and cons obviously to being on your own, but it definitely is nice being with your family.
Oh, definitely.
And you know, I always had good family get-togethers, and we would get together on 4th of July and Christmas and all that stuff with my mom's side. But I always feel like it was just a little bit tense for whatever reason. There was always conflicts that would kind of happen between family members. And so in a lot of ways, you know, I love my family and I enjoy those get-togethers. But I really, really enjoy whenever I get to hang out with the Treys, which is our friend Ryan's family. They kind of have taken me under their wing as one of their own, which I am very grateful for. But everything's just so like easy, and everyone just plays games and has fun. And so that's definitely that family feeling that I really enjoy.
The difference is in my mom and dad's family. Like, I didn't have that tenseness with either of them.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't. My mom's side of the family is fun to be around. They play a lot of cards, do a lot of that stuff. We watch movies together. We play outside, especially since there's so many cousins on that side of the family. For Christmas every year, we do freaking backyard football.
That's great.
So, yeah, and it's me, the oldest, throwing to a bunch of little kids, and they'd be like, Drake, you're all-time quarterback. And I'm like, I know, because I'm not going to play any other position. It's a lot of fun.
Just sack a small child.
just run them over, truck them. But, yeah, my dad's family, you know my dad, he's very loud. That's where I get it from. But that family's very loud. We laugh. We have a good time. In the summertime, they were living in Bowling Green, and still when they're living in Branson, we sit out on the porch and they drank beer. I would drink soda, you know, and just shoot the shit the whole night.
Yeah.
So and just spend quality time with each other, and that's something I do miss from growing up. So.
But something you can look forward to again whenever you see them. Whenever you see them and whenever you have your own kids. That you can pass on that feeling to them as well.
The traditions.
Yeah.
Yes. That is it for me.
You want to recap your 5 again?
I have no real responsibilities at 5. I have number 4, Sundays after church. Number 3, Saturday morning cartoons. Number 2, little swimmy swim. Number 1, family time. So
nice. That's a good list. So starting in my number 5 is one that's a little bit more, I guess a little less deep, but my number 5 is just having toys. And this is something that, you know, I don't necessarily like need now in my adulthood, but the significance and like how special it was to you, like I miss that feeling as a kid.
Oh yeah,
like,
definitely.
there was nothing quite like walking into a Toys R Us whenever you were, 9 years old. And, you don't even have the money to buy anything.
Yeah.
But you still look at the shelves and think about what could be.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's sad to me that the Toys R Us are gone because I got more joy out of just walking through them, never even really buying anything from them.
Well, the way I got my greenbacks was losing my teeth because my mom would give me $5, or
Sweet.
the tooth fairy would give me $5, and I would be so excited. And then when I get home from school, she'd be like, "All right, we're going to Walmart. I need to get some groceries, and you can spend your $5 on something." I'd spend it on a GI Joe every time, so I have an S load of GI Joes packed away. But toys. I have a ton, still have a ton of Legos. I have a ton of my He-Man that I got, and I got Ninja Turtles and GI Joes. That was my thing.
Yeah, for me, my big ones were Lego, particularly the Star Wars kits. I remember there was one Christmas where I got Jabba's sail barge and a Star Destroyer. And that was just like the greatest thing ever.
Just poop your pants. Yeah.
Just a little bit. There was Imagine Next, which for those of you who don't remember, it was kind of like another building sort of toy, but you'd have entire walls and floors that you would lock together to build castles. But it was all very fantasy oriented, and so you'd have knights and castles. But they also had like a sister series where it was like police and firefighters and all that kind of stuff too. So it was just fun being able to like act out my own stories, and I'm such a huge collecting person now, and I definitely was back then. So being able to have like entire armies that I was amassing and like getting them all armored up and stuff, it was cool to feel like you were running your own little world.
Yeah. Did you ever have the Magic Castle?
Oh, I had the Magic Castle. Me and Christiana, my sister, played with it all the time. And we were weird kids. I'm just going to toss that out there. Because we would always, like, have our main characters were playing be the bad guys. And so
that's very telling of Tana.
I mean, it was both of us in her defense.
Yeah,
but,
I'm just joking.
Yeah, but we'd have our bad guys, and we watched a lot of Scooby-Doo, so the worst thing they'd ever do would be, like, hypnotize people and, like, put them in a jail cell. I don't know why in cartoons, like, that's the main thing. It's like, I'm going to hypnotize you, and you're going to fall into quicksand. Like John Mulaney told us. But, yeah, so just having toys, and also in the same vein of toys, like, I loved running around my backyard with, like, a plastic sword or a lightsaber, that kind of thing.
I cannot tell you how many weekends I spent in my grandparents' yard with a lightsaber fighting fictitious Sith Lords. And they'd be sitting there on the porch like, what is he doing? Whatever he feels like. Just let him do what and I'd be commanding clone troopers that weren't there,
I mean, for God's sake, whenever we were college roommates, we still had lightsabers. We'd duel it out every so often.
Oh, that freaking New Year's Eve where we went over to our friend's house where we did our own battle and we had Duel of Fates playing. That's one of my fondest memories.
We had like 4 Sith Lords against 4 Jedi. It was full out.
And one of us broke our lightsaber because it was too cold.
And then it became more dangerous because it was at a sharp point.
Yeah, no kidding. Ugh.
Yeah, so toys was my number 5, just kind of in general. My number 4 here is just Christmas and the Christmas spirit. And I know especially you definitely have not lost your sense of Christmas wonder, I feel like, in your years. But I feel like with me, pretty much at the point where I stopped believing in Santa, like Christmas stopped being quite as special. Mm-hmm. So I just remember like the feeling of excitement as a kid where like I would wake up at 1 a.m, just like ready to see if Santa brought my presents or if he'd taken a bite out of that cookie and drank some milk. And usually my parents would probably leave it out around midnight or so because they knew I'd get up around 1. And the presents from Santa were never wrapped. And so I would just go there, and I knew better than to actually like, open up the boxes because you had to wait till everyone was awake. So I would just go and sit there and just stare at the boxes for 5 hours.
What am I going to do with this when I get the chance?
Yeah. The best one, though, that I got to use was there was one year where Santa brought me a Marvel encyclopedia. And so I just read that thing cover to cover, basically, in the time it took everyone else to wake up. There was a couple of years where, I was determined to see the magic at work. So I would like climb out my window at night in the basement, and I would just look up at the roof to see if the reindeer were going to land there. Like, just that sense of wonder is something that I miss so much.
Yeah, I definitely miss that too. But my fiance, I think I found the perfect woman because she's super into Christmas. I don't know if it's just because I am, and she's like by default, I've worn on her, and she's like, I'm into Christmas now too.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, she loves Christmas as much as I do. We put up for her birthday this year. We put up the Christmas tree. That was what she wanted.
Nice.
And I was like, all right, that's easy.
Yeah.
One thing we do with the holidays is here in Columbia, my mom and her sister live in the same town, and we always go over to their house and or our house and watch It's a Wonderful Life and play board games.
Yeah.
One thing, another thing is my mom started this tradition a long time ago was pajamas for Christmas, like a certain pair of pajamas for Christmas Eve. And I remember being little, it was a full on like onesie or something. You wake up and at my grandma's house, there would be tons of presents for me because, everybody was just happy that I was there and I got spoiled rotten.
You were the one kid at that point too, right?
I was the one to rule them all. There'd be tons of presents for me, and I'd be so excited. Then after that would happen, I'd go over to my dad, or if my dad had me on Christmas, I'd go over to my mom's. But I got to spend Christmas with both my parents, and being from a split household, that was nice.
Yeah.
And I got 3 Christmases when my mom got married. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
On top of that. But.
Yeah, some of our big traditions were, I remember that every year my grandpa's, he lives out in the country, and so it was especially nice if it was snowing. He would get his tractor, and he'd hitch up a wagon to it, and we would go out and find a Christmas tree to chop down ourselves. And the kids would take turns. He would have the axe in his hands, and we would basically just gingerly put our hands on the axe, and he would we'd be swinging it together and chop down a tree. And there was one year where we all had a giant snowball fight out there, and it was a lot of fun. My mom had a lot of really creative Christmas ideas, and there was one thing that she did every year, which was outside of Shelter Insurance, they always have a giant Christmas tree in the fountain. Mm-hmm. And she would make us believe that we had planted that Christmas tree because we would take pine cones and bury them next to the fountain. And we would put some magic powder on them, which is basically glitter and sugar or something. And bury the pine cones, and then a few weeks later, the Christmas tree was there, and we were like, "Whoa, look at what we did! It's so cute, yeah!" It was so awesome. But honestly, some of those Christmas traditions, we got some new ones just from living together. We got some weird ones.
Oh God! Yeah.
I won't go into detail about the weirdest, but you would get me more in the Christmas spirit than I would nowadays as a working adult on my own.
Yeah.
We'd set the tree together. And then we'd play Grand Theft Auto or something, and watch Band of Brothers. But
sing our own version of 12 Days of Christmas.
Yeah, whatever
it was.
'Twas the night before Christmas.
'Twas the night before Christmas. That's what we would do.
Yeah, but your excitement for Christmas would make me more excited. I miss that feeling, and I definitely don't have it as much as I did whenever I was a wee lad.
Well, we'll have to start a tradition of you coming over and helping us plant the Christmas tree.
Oh, I'd love to. That'd be great.
In our living room.
Any other thoughts on Christmas?
Just that I love it.
There you go.
Yep.
Number 3 for me is big neighborhood games. So this was whenever I was growing up on my cul-de-sac, and we would be playing Capture the Flag all day long, or Foursquare in our cul-de-sac, or kickball, or different things like that. And it was just fun that every summer day, all the kids in the neighborhood would come together. We'd have some sort of big activity or game we were doing. And we even got to the point where we would make up our own weird games. And so one of our favorites was called Garage Tag. Now, Garage Tag is you have to have 2 people's houses with their garage doors open. And each of those, maybe you just need one garage. You just needed one garage. But it counted as your base. And so you'd have 2 or 3 people who are it, and then everyone else the entire neighborhood is free reign. But it's your goal to try and get into the garage without the person tagging you. Otherwise, obviously, you're it next time. And so that was always a lot of fun. And it drove our mom crazy, but we'd even play tag inside sometimes. And we got this, we would play what we called couch tag, which is basically garage tag, but with a couch instead, where your couch is your base. And we got to the point where we were needing to spice things up. And so one of our friends, who was the oldest in the neighborhood, Douglas, he was just looking around her house. He's like, okay, what can we do here? And he finds these Garfield stuffed animals. He's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Hear me out. Garfield tag. Now the way Garfield tag is going to work is there'll be 3 of these Garfields hidden around the house, and you can't get to the couch until you've collected yourself a Garfield. And so it was like you had to find the Garfield, then get to the safe spot, and then you were good. And we destroyed our living room couch playing these variations of couch tag. But then there was also...
okay, hear me out. Garfield tag.
Then there was Sardines in a Can. Did you ever play that
I
one?
played that in youth group.
Yeah, it's basically like reverse hide and seek, where one person hides, everyone tries to find them, and once you do find them, you hide with them.
There was one at youth group. It was at my old middle school, high school, not middle school, or middle school, elementary school. And they decided to hide in the cafeteria, which is underneath the church.
Uh-huh.
And they hid in the cafeteria freezer.
Oh, no.
So I found them in the freezer. I wasn't the last one, but there's so many in the freezer. I was like, I'm just going to climb on top of the freezer.
Cuddle for warmth.
Yeah, and I got onto the top, and nobody found me. And nobody found them because they locked themselves in the freezer like a bunch of idiots.
That reminds me of that one time where we were like 17-year-old teenagers.
We were playing hide and seek at your dad's house.
And we played hide and seek in my dad's house. It was I put in air quotes, a snow day, our senior year of high school. And it was March the 4th, which is our friend Ryan's birthday. And so we decided to throw him a surprise birthday party at my dad's house. So we decided to play hide and seek, as 17-year-olds do.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the spots that we hid was in the trunk of my car in the garage.
Yep.
And so Drake and I are like, let's just do it together because it's way more entertaining to hide with a friend. And so we go into the trunk of my car, and immediately as we do that and I shut the hatch to a close, he just lets out this massive fart. I'm like, you screwed us both here. Why would you do that? And so as I'm yelling in the trunk of the car, like, Ryan's it. And he's like, okay, clearly they're in here. Saves me from my misery. But Ryan, another time he was it, he got pissed at us because we decided to hide on the roof of my house. And he's like, you weren't in the house, so you were cheating. And we're like, maybe, but it's
Remember
funny.
the time we were in Texas and he got pissed off about Settlers of Catan? Because you and I teamed up and gathered all the resources and we're like, we're done, it's time to quit.
Okay, look, Ryan, if you're listening, all right, hear us out. And we've had this discussion a million times in the past. We get the Euro tray, and you like to finish games until their logical point of completion. But we've been traveling for 10 hours that day. Joanna had fallen asleep at the table. Katie was crying. It was time for that game to end.
I forgot she was crying. I forgot that because Travis made her so mad that she started crying.
Because he wouldn't trade her a sheep or some crap.
And you and I were like, let's end this and team up. So that's what we did.
Like, I needed like one like sheep or something to win. He just gave me the card. I'm like, okay, we're done. And made Ryan livid.
Fond memories.
Ryan, we love you. All right, let it be known. But yeah, I loved being able to get together in huge groups and play games. And we kind of got to continue that same sort of essence. Like I was saying, we were in high school as a group, and we would play wiffle ball as a gang of friends.
Yeah, and I would hit the big dingers.
Oh yeah, good times.
Good times. I remember that time we hit our one. hit Lexi, one of our friends.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hit her in the face, or where did I hit her with the ball?
I don't know.
But she was going to second, and I was just like, gotta get her. Boom, and threw it on the line and hit her, and she was like, ah!
What stands out to me most about our wiffle ball injuries is Evan was pitching one time, good old Evan Schaefer, and he was pitching to his now wife, Joanna. And Joanna hits a line drive directly into his chest.
Yeah, I remember that.
And leaves a big old welt right on him. Oh, man. Good times.
In my neighborhood, we just played street hockey when I was little. And then we played, when I got older, I had my own group of friends in my neighborhood, and we'd ride our bikes around town, around the neighborhood, and we'd be like, form up, and we'd all like ride everywhere on a
saddle up and ride.
We'd go to the ball fields below our house and play some fun games, but yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Good stuff, yeah.
My number 2 is a little bit more of a broad sort of topic, which is just experiencing things for the first time and like the feeling that gives you. And I feel like now, obviously, life's great and, we get to have all sorts of cool experiences. But, like, I can so distinctly remember, like, the first time I ever had ice cream and what, like, a magical thing that was.
I can't remember that.
I remember it because I was in Disney World. And I got one of those, like, Mickey Mouse ice cream sandwiches. And my little 3-year-old, 2.5-year-old self just sat on the curb of the street. I was like, this stuff's pretty good.
It's just,
And I think that's actually a direct quote if you ask my mom. Like, that's what I said. But it changed my life forever. And I'm trying to think of other things. Like, obviously, whenever you're older, a teenager, but still, like, being behind the wheel of a car, driving by yourself for the first time. Like, there's nothing quite like that experience.
I was terrified to start driving a car. I didn't get my license till I was 17 years old.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, it was such an important part of growing up. I got my driver's license on my birthday.
Yeah.
Of my 16th birthday. I remember growing up and being like, I'm going to be the last one to get my license because my, birthday is one of the last in the year. And it just turned out, like, between you and Ryan and some of the others, like, you waited a year and a half to get your guys' licenses. And so I ended up driving pretty early on, but it was, I don't know, it was just such a great thing. And along that same vein, like...
My freaking Dodge Dynasty.
Oh, man, we had some good times in that.
Yeah.
Spinning out during the snowstorms.
Oh, my God. On the way to one of our houses. Yeah.
But also just, like, childhood, like, crushes or romances just seemed like so much more, like, world-shaking than they do now.
If I go back to my high school, like, my first real crush, I'd probably smack myself in the face. Like, come on, dude. Get it together.
But, like, everyone has to go through that.
Everyone needs to learn something.
Like, it's funny, too, because I remember my awkward middle school romances and just, like, thinking how important it was as an 11-year-old to have a girlfriend. And I'm like, what was
Nobody really is dating at that time. Because everybody's like, oh, we sit together at lunch. That kind of thing. And it's like, that's not dating.
And that's one of the funniest parts about being a middle school teacher is I see, some of those things happening. And... it's great whenever there's a couple of kids you really love, and they're just, like, awkward, like, making side eyes at each other. Like, I see what's going on.
I see what's going on. I remember my first crush. She's now a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader.
Dude, no way.
Yeah! It's
All right.
crazy.
You were shooting for those stars.
Yeah, and I remember our 8th grade dance, I asked her if she wanted to be my girlfriend, and she turned me down, and I cried the rest of the night.
Oh, buddy.
It's all good. It's funny as hell, though.
No, my first time went similarly, where there was this girl who I was into in, I think, the 6th grade. And, like, we had maybe talked twice. And I go up to her during our locker time, and I'm just like, hey, you want to be my girlfriend? Just, like, straight up, she was like, no? And I was like, dang.
Do it next time.
And I walked away so downtrodden. And I think I even, like, faked sick the next day because I was too embarrassed to show my face again.
That's funny.
Yeah, so just those things, like, they seem so world-shattering or so exciting. And, now whenever I go on dates with people, I'm just like, all right, this is
You want to be my girlfriend?
Hey, you want to be my girlfriend?
Hi, real quick, you want to be my girlfriend?
Yeah, not much has changed in that sense, I guess.
I guess not. Yeah, what can you do? Yeah.
Anything in particular you remember experiencing, like, for the first time and just being amazing? And not the one you're thinking of. We're gonna keep it PG here.
But yes. Yes to that. I'm trying to think.
I think one for me is, you and I both, we were avid comic book readers whenever we were young kids. And I've told you this a million times, but, like, I would be so nervous about, like, my Captain America folders in the 6th grade about, like, some bully coming up and being like, who's this nerd? And me being like, it's Captain America, he's cool, I promise.
I used to draw my own comic books when I was in school.
Yeah.
I got made fun of.
Yeah,
so.
that same kind of deal with me. But I remember my excitement whenever the first Iron Man movie came out. 2008, I'm, like, 12 years old. Yeah. And I remember seeing that in theaters with a couple of my friends at the time. And, like, whenever Coulson from S.H.I.E.L.D. came on, I'm like, no way, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s in this movie? And then, they would talk, like, in passing about the Avengers, and I just lost my mind. I'm like, guys, do you know what this means? And they're like, no. I'm like, the Avengers are coming. They're like, what are you talking about?
Who are the Avengers?
Yeah, who are the Avengers? I'm like, you'll understand, I promise.
And then, can you imagine, like, if I could go back and experience the Avengers again, that'd be great.
I think that if I had told 11-year-old me that Endgame was going to be a thing, like this massive crossover event like the Secret Wars or just something nuts like that from the comics, I would have just been like, there's no way.
Hey, Civil War's coming.
Yeah, like these amazing, huge movie events. Like, can you imagine 20 years ago anything like that? It's nuts.
I will say things seemed a lot bigger. And maybe that's because we were small. But
yeah,
the world seemed bigger. The
Yeah.
world hasn't changed. There's just less in it from Jack Sparrow.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true.
But yeah, the mall, when we go to the mall, and it would just be like, "Wow, this place is huge."
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, this place is kind of small. You know, we're middle of Missouri, so I don't know what I would expect as an adult. But
Yeah.
we had a pretty nice mall, but I just remember it being huge. And during Christmas time, even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now during Christmas time, I'm like, F this joint. I don't want no part of it. Yeah.
This is why people die on Black Friday. We'll just go to my number one here because we're starting to run low on time. But my number one is just being able to see your friends every single day if you wanted to. And, a lot of that, like, not everyone loves school, but you could at least say 5 days at least out of the week, I get to see my best friends and we get to hang out and we get to have all these cool experiences together.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of my students who are talking about how much they miss their friends, and a lot of that, and they're also just missing school because they really have nothing to talk about now. Like, the most important moments of your life happened, like, as a group of friends in school when you got to share all those things together.
Yeah.
And whenever we got to our driving age and we all were hanging out together, basically during the summers, we would just hang out with each other every single day. And sometimes it would just be like me and you, sometimes it'd be just me and Ryan, sometimes it's a whole group. But it was always fun just being able to, like, no matter what, you're doing something with someone you like. And to a certain extent, it was similar in college where you only had a certain number of class hours and a part-time job. So you could hang out with someone basically all the time. But as we've become adults and we have, bills to pay and full-time jobs, it's harder to, one, like, find time, and two, get motivated to hang out with the people you like. And so
yeah, definitely.
this podcast is honestly a good opportunity for us just to have a reason to spend time together.
Yeah, no kidding. I enjoy it thoroughly. I do miss you guys a ton, and not everybody's moved away, but some people have moved away.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But the other thing, we have video chats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we have the holidays when they come home. But yeah, I do miss you guys every day. It was something to look forward to when you go to school. Like, hey, I get to have lunch and see my friends and just hang out for an hour and do whatever we want to do. Go swimming during the summertime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember also during those high school days, there would be, like, if we knew there was a snowstorm coming, me and you would just be like, all right, whose house are we holding up at?
Yeah.
And we would just spend, like, 3 snow days in a row just hanging out at one of our houses.
The great thing was, like, you were my one friend that my mom was like, if he lived with us, I'd probably be okay with it.
Really?
Yeah, because the others were like, she loved the other guys, like Austin and them, but she was like, I just feel like they tear everything up every time they come over. And you were just like, sit on the couch. James, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I'm good,
Yeah.
I'll eat whatever.
Yeah.
You're less picky than my own son, is what my mom would probably say.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I miss those days. And also, my dad misses them too. Like, he misses all of you guys coming over. And anytime I bring one of you up, he's like, be sure to say hi for me. Like, tell Joanna and Evan I said hi. I'm like, I'll be sure to do that, Pops.
I'll be sure to do it, Pops.
Yeah, he just loved seeing how happy I was with a group of good people. And I think that your mom kind of had similar feelings, didn't she?
Yeah, she's like, the only trouble I gave my mom is with my schoolwork, because I just hated doing schoolwork. But she was like, I couldn't ask for a better group of friends for you to fall in with than the ones that you have.
Yeah.
Another thing about your dad.
Go ahead.
That night we were at your house and it was like storming.
Yeah.
And Frank was going nuts, and it was just you.
Frank's my dog.
Yeah, Frank. JP's old dog was going nuts, and we walked downstairs because we were hungry or something, or we had like.
No, that's not what happened. Let me tell you what happened.
Oh, we farted up the room. But the power went out.
So earlier that day, Drake and I, we were gonna have ourselves a nice mandate where we went to Applebee's. We got ourselves some chicken wings. We went to see Transformers: Age of Extinction. We got ourselves nice big old tubs of buttery popcorn. Now, of course, we get home and stomach's starting to gurgle. It's a deadly brew just churning in our stomach, and we're feeling gaseous as can be. Big storm rolls around and knocks out the power. Now, the power takes out any air movement, any fans at all. And we're just letting loose in my room, and it is a noxious cloud of deadly gases.
I don't think we noticed the cloud until we went downstairs we did something. And I remember your dad popping out of nowhere in a bathrobe. He's like, "Hello, boys, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Ah! Mr. P, what are you doing?"
What we were going downstairs for was air freshener because we bogged my room.
And then we walked back upstairs to your room, and it's just a fog, like waist high.
I felt bad because Lexi decided for God knows what reason to hang out with us, and she just is in our room, just dry heaving.
Yeah, because we just stunk up the joint.
We had to crack a window and stick our heads out.
It was bad. It was bad.
Oh man, but yeah, we had some times as
did.
children.
Sledding.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
Me and you tried to revisit sledding this winter. It was pretty fun, but
we freaking dummied those kids.
what we realized is how out of shape we both are.
Oh God!
Trying to climb up those hills.
I think we both went down one or twice, and we were like, "All right, we're done with this."
Yeah. So then we started building this fort. We're at Stevens Lake.
Yeah,
Stevens Lake Park, and there's a bunch of different families out there who are sledding, and so we started building a fort. And of course, the construction of a war fortress just invites contest. And this swarm of children we see running at us from the distance. So we're like, all right, we gotta ready up here. And they're just like, we're calling war on you. And they start pelting us with snowballs. We're like, all right, we can't take this sitting down. And so we start fighting for our lives there on the beaches in Normandy.
Oh yeah, we took them down. Their parents were like, "Leave them alone. They're killing you."
And stay away from these strangers who you're just thinking you can play with because they built a fort.
Then one kid sided with us, and we bestowed the fort upon him.
Yes, as we left, we gave this kid the fort.
We gave him the keys.
Some say he's still holding it down to this day.
Yeah, there's nothing left, but he's still holding it down.
Yeah, that just about wraps up my list. So just to go through them again, my number 5 was toys. My number 4 was Christmas. Number 3, big neighborhood games. Number 2, experiencing things for the first time. And number 1, being able to see your friends every day.
Yep.
Any concluding thoughts here as we're wrapping up?
Do
you want to give a plug to your dad?
I do want to give a plug to my dad. My dad, Nathan Lubrek, and I'll probably put a link to one of his videos. He has a YouTube channel called Trucking for Jesus, where he talks about God and everything Christianity. He's kind of gone political in his last couple episodes. I think he's going to start, not doing that. But it's a great channel and really shows how far my dad's come with God in his life. So I just wanted to plug that, and he's going to plug us. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to old Nate Lubrek.
Nobody calls him Nate.
Well, I just did.
I know.
He introduced himself as Nate at our prom photo session, even though no one calls him Nate. Bless his heart.
Yep. That's it. Tune in when our next one's out.
Should we go with our usual closing of until next time?
Until next time. Always remember to spay and neuter your pets, otherwise unwanted breeding might occur.
He-Man has said it, and so it shall be.
Yep. Have a good night. Or afternoon. Or morning.